Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to this evening's update. We're going to have a look at the GEFS ensembles for this evening. I said we'd have a quick look at them. After earlier on today, we had a very extreme and severe update from the GFS model. The 6 o'clock run of the GFS was extraordinarily cold and snowy for the second week of January. If you want to know more about that, check out the second video that we did today, which you can find on the homepage. You've got to scroll down underneath the link. As we also did a quick spring seasonal model update, and you find that on the spring updates page, now the little written version as well. So, this is update 3 for today. They're coming thick and fast at the moment. It's a fascinating time to be looking at the models, because it looks like we could be in for something significantly colder for January. But, of course, it's still a little way off, so we're certainly going to firm up and see how things progress over the next few days. Before I get on with tonight's look at the GFS ensemble, just say about the ads. Just link articles on the pages. Have a browse through widgets and click through the links. If there's any articles that you're interested in, help us to pay the website. Thanks very much for doing that. I want to just start off with the midday operational run. The last run we had was that extraordinarily cold 6 o'clock run. It runs 4 times a day, the GFS model, which is midnight, 6 in the morning, midday, and also 6 in the evening. So, the midnight run was quite a cold one. We included that in today's second video as well. It's quite a cold one, but not severe. Just sort of sensible cold, if you like. Whereas the 6 o'clock run went extremely over the top with a very, very cold, severely cold, freeze engulfing most of Europe. The British Isles was included in that. It's we've had the midday run come in now, so just a quick run through that first. And so we start off on Wednesday when we've got a ridge of high pressure through the country, which is quite cold. We get the little northerly snap over New Year, so still a legacy of that left for Wednesday, 4th of January, under that ridge of high pressure. So the end of next week, get another blast of cold air from the north. I think we've got pretty good agreement for that to happen as well. But later next week, we get another push of cold air from the north. It's what happens after that, because we've got a very extensive and quite severe cold pool sitting over Scandinavia and northeastern Europe. If we get this high pressure up to Scandinavia, we'll turn the winds into the east, and that brings real Siberian cold in from the east. So up to Saturday, the 7th of January, a week on Saturday, we're in this northerly flow, which is bringing snow showers. It's cold, it's Arctic, so there will be snow showers coming down with that, and night frost as well. And what the midday run of the GFS wants to do up to day 10, which is Sunday 8th of January, starts to move that high pressure towards Scandinavia. So as we go into the second week of January, look at this, we've got the high pressure over Scandinavia, the winds are going into the east as well. That's quite a bitterly cold easterly wind coming in across the country. Upper air temperatures do look very cold. This is not as severe as the 6 o'clock run. I have to say that. It has toned it down a lot in terms of those upper air temperatures. They aren't sort of dropping down to a severe depth of cold, but it's certainly cold enough for snow. And essentially, the easy wind is bringing the air all the way from Russia. You follow the isobars back. The air's originating in Russia. And that's a classic Scandinavian high, producing a bitterly cold easy wind. So, although it's toned it down a bit, and that was to be expected because it's a very extreme run, the 6 o'clock run, the midday run has kept with the broad idea that into the second week of January, the wind goes into the east, and it does look pretty cold. So let's have a run through these GFS ensemble members then, starting off on the 6th of January, which is a week tomorrow. This is the control run, first of all, so this is a slightly lower resolution compared to the operational run. There's that northerly wind we've got coming up at the end of next week. We've got fairly good agreement for that. Now, as we go through, what happens with this one is that we do get that build of pressure over Scandinavia. The wind's trying to get into the east. Look how cold it is across central parts of Europe, trying to bring severe cold in from Central Europe. But actually, this one brings the energy in from the Atlantic. So it has a go at getting wind into the east during the second week of January. But overall, no, actually, it's westerly and Atlantic driven. I haven't been through these ensembles, so I don't know what they're going to show. This is member number 1, and there's that northerly again at the end of next week. Then we build up a ridge And then we start to move the Atlantic through there as we go into the second week. It's a cold Atlantic flow, but it's cold zonality, and certainly for the north, there will be snow risk in with that. The reason that's happening is because we've got such a depth of cold over the continent, sort of pushing the jet stream and the low pressures on more of a southerly track. But that, again, is not particularly easterly. This is Ensemble number 2, and this one brings down that northerly wind to the end of next week. So there it comes with low pressure, probably bringing snow, and then we get this build of pressure over the cold air. And yeah, this one's going into the east. The high pressure is going up to Greenland and up to Iceland. Winds are screaming in from the east, bitterly cold winds as well. That would be very cold and snowy into the second week of January. This is Ensemble member number 3, and this one looks much milder and much more Atlantic driven. We don't even really get that northerly at the end of next week with Ensemble member number 3. That just looks generally quite mild and Atlantic driven. So you see, this isn't a done deal by any means that we're going to get cold weather into the second week of January. This is number 4, and again, there's that northerly coming down across the country. Winds are going into the northeast, probably producing some snow showers in the east there on the 10th of January. Then the high pressure's sinking, and the winds are going back into the west. So that one does have some cold weather in it, but it isn't desperately cold. Ensemble member number 5 looks like that, and it's very Atlantic driven and stormy there with low pressure racing in off the Atlantic. So still a mix of options so far for that second week of January. This is number 6, and this one's trying to get the high pressure up to Scandinavia. Certainly easy winds are pushing cold air through Germany and France, not quite getting into us. However, that high pressure does go further north, and this looks cold as we go through towards the 14th of January. Yes, bring bitterly cold air in from the east. So it takes a little bit longer to get there, but number 6 is definitely going in a very cold direction in the end. Ensemble member number 7 shows high pressure just sort of sitting over Europe, really not doing a great deal. Actually, this one is quite plausible for what's happened in December. Just lots of quiet weather. Would be quite cold, but the severe conditions remain over in the east and southeast of Europe. That's probably a plausible option, to be honest, for what has happened in December, which has been a very quiet month. This is number 8, and again, bringing down that northerly, northeasterly flow there at the end of next week and into next weekend. Then it goes Atlantic driven, so that one looks quite mild and disturbed. Through to number 9, and well, bitterly cold northerly winds coming down across the country, and a real blocking feature getting going to the northwest of the country. Wind has gone into the east, that's bringing bitterly cold air in from the east, and snow as well. And then we get attacked from the northeast by an area of low pressure coming out of Norway. That's a very cold and snowy update there for the second week of January. Ensemble member number 9. We're halfway through. This is number 10, and we find this one is cold as well. Low pressure slinks down over the country. The winds are in from the east, and then eventually the high pressure sinks down across the country. That's another really cold one. It doesn't look that extreme, but it is cold, and there's certainly snow risks in with that one. This is number 11, and again, we've got that northerly wind, very brief northerly wind though, and then the Atlantic is breaking through on this one, albeit on a bit of a southerly track, so it's got a warm Atlantic flow, but that one is more Atlantic driven. Consequently, it isn't anywhere near as cold. Number 12 has the northerly wind at the end of next week, and then it stays cold. Another low pressure slipping down the North Sea there at the end. Don't get the easterly wind, but this is cold from the north, really, through the second week of January. And there would be snow, of course, coming down with that low pressure running down the North Sea. I think we can put number 12 as a cold one, albeit not easterly. Number 13 looks cold initially. We start off with that northerly at the end of next week and into next weekend, and then it just stays Atlantic driven, really. So that was not especially cold. It's a chilly flow from the northwest, but it isn't an easterly setup. Remember, we're looking for the easterly wind to bring that severely cold air in from Central and Northeastern Europe. Number 14 shows low pressure dominating, so that one is Atlantic driven and not overly cold either. Number 15 has just a lot of high pressure, so we get that initial northerly the end of next week, then we just have high pressure sitting around the country, producing lots of frost. It looks like at the end it's trying to get up towards Greenland, turn the wind back into the north again. Number 16 has us in the northerly wind at the end of next week. I think we've got pretty good agreement for that. Then we try to build the pressure up over Scandinavia. We do get the wind going into the east for a time around the 9th. It is an easterly wind that will be producing snow showers in the south. And then the Atlantic's breaking through and returning us to a westerly flow, albeit it is quite a cold westerly flow. It's not a typical mild Atlantic flow at all. Number 17 with that real northerly there, and then it just stays cold. Wind tries to get into the east but doesn't quite do it, but overall that is a cold one again from number 17, and there will be snow risks in with that as well. It's not severely cold, but it's cold enough for snow, and there would be snow there through the second week of January. Number 18 has low pressure running down the country, and then we're into westerly, breaking through. Number 19 has us in that northerly wind at the end of the week. There it comes, and then wind goes into the west, or it tries to anyway, and eventually it does get a bit milder. And then finally, Ensemble member number 20 looking like this. That one is just Atlantic driven, and actually turns quite mild later on as well. So there are a range of options for the second week of January. I think we've got pretty good agreement to get a northerly wind. So we're going to have a northerly shot over the new year. That might produce some snow on New Year's Day, depending on how quickly the cold front clears through. Then we get a build of pressure through the middle part of next week. It looks quite dry and cold. I think we've got good agreement to get another northerly at the end of next week and into next weekend. So the first full weekend of January, if you like. And then after that, it very much is up in the air. Do we break that quickly and just return to zone westerly, or do we get that high pressure up to Scandinavia and get the winds in from the east? If we get the wind in from the east during the second week of January, we will know about it, because it's a really deep cold pool that's sitting up there over the northeast of Europe by that time. So it's just going to be a case of whether we do it or not, and we'll need to wait longer to find out. But it certainly is a fascinating time for model watchers, and let's just wait and see where this is going. We'll be updating again tomorrow, of course, so come back for tomorrow's updates. That's all for now then, and thanks for watching.